time to paint the day away. Big D's brush, where the colors come alive. Chill vibes, good times, hobby mode as we dive. From base coat to highlight, watch the armies rise. Big D's brush, relax and paint the night. So crack a beer, join the crew, let the colors flow. Big D's brushes live, yeah, welcome to the show. Got dwarves with their axes, knights on their steeds, orc war bands ready for their wicked deeds. I'll show you all the tricks, the blends and the glaze, little painting secrets from my hobby days. No pressure here, just hang and chat, share stories of battles and paint mishaps. We laugh, we learn, mix colors on the fly, watching warbands grow beneath the brush as time goes by. Every stroke and every color tells a tale, from victory's glory to the warrior's trail, with the thread of chaos on the rise. The heroes tell no lies, with their blades in hand. It's time to purge this evil from the land. So crack a beer, join the crew, let the colors flow. Big D's brush is live, yeah, welcome to the show. Let's paint!
Is that better? It wasn't supposed to be a scuff stream, but it ended up being a scuff stream. Oh dear. I think the thing had been off for some reason. Oh well, never mind. Oh. Mr. Bit Dot in the house, how are you? It's a good job you was here, otherwise I'd have been on mute for the rest of the I'm good, thank you. I'm really good. I'm really positive, very excited for this stream. After really positive feedback from the last one, I figured it was time to fire up a stream, and let's see where we can go. So just as a sort of just what I get kind of yeah I would say just I think I needed, so after that first stream I just needed like some time just to kind of like process and kind of just like think things through in my head about, okay, this can work, you know, there's positive feedback and there's interest in this. I just needed a while just to, like, okay, so what are we going to do? How are we going to go forward with it? I even went out and got a notebook. This is my stream notes book here, look. So literally I wrote down all notes from the previous stream. So just things for me to think about. Like, I liked the camera looked good, the sound's okay, but I do want to get a new mic. The lighting is good, the lighting works really well. So just, and I'm gonna, it's basically a journal. Yeah, and it's also a journal as well. Stop mumbling is pretty much the main thing there. But so then after this stream, I will do the same thing again, where I'll write down my thoughts and my feelings about the stream that I've just had and go from there. So this way I've got frame of reference to just to reflect on. So yeah, just a little thing. So you know, I say be a bit more clear, a bit more focused. I was a bit kind of all over the place a bit last time, a bit random, a bit sporadic. So sort the mic out for the logo. It's the green-eyed big bad wolf. How are you? Thanks for joining us. So yeah, maybe I'm going to try and figure out maybe with a camera, maybe zoom in. This here, the sort out the mic for the logo. I can show you that now actually. So I stick the mic on now. You can hear me while I'm talk while this screen is on. You can actually hear me talk. And this was because last stream I did a sign off for the end of the stream. I switched to my standby as a kind of sign off, and obviously I didn't have my mic set up for that screen. So the last few minutes of that stream, that send off was just muted, and it made it look like I had just logged off and not said goodbye properly. So that was something I wanted to get sorted out, and that was something I fixed. So just little things like that. So this will, right into this, will help me basically keep on top of things and make sure, you know, the streams are improved each time. I just wanted to also have what I do is I write down all the followers that came in that that I got in that stream. So then on the next page will be for more, you know, each stream I'll write down the followers. So I've got I was overwhelmed by the amount of support I got last time, the followers. So thank you to everyone who did follow last stream, and yeah, let's just see what we can do here, what we can build, what we can improve on. So this is gonna be really good, and obviously your feedback, you know, everyone's feedback is appreciated. So obviously in the last stream I just started randomly painting just a random model, just because it was just to get me used to painting on camera again. So this stream, as the title suggests, this is episode 1. This is Chaos Rising. So that is basically, we are going to be painting up a Chaos Lord, and it seems really fitting as it just seems really fitting, seeing as the new models for the Chaos Marauders went on pre-order on Saturday, and I was able to get my pre-order in. So I'm happy about that. So looking forward to. There's something I like more than with this with the old world, is seeing all the new sculpts that are coming out for it. So the ones I pre-ordered are like all totally brand new. This model here, this one is actually a Warhammer Age of Sigmar model, which I'm repurposing for as a Chaos Lord for my Warhammer the Old World stuff. The reason why that's all cut to pieces, by the way, is I cut out the pictures, and then I'll get a sketchbook. I get a sketchbook like that. I'll get this one here. This is obviously my notebook for my painting, and so I wrote down some stuff. I started putting blobs of colour down. I'll glue this on here or sellotape this on here, and then I would normally just do some arrows to each section and write the colours I want to use, because I'm not painting this guy obviously the same as this. So that's just one way you can go about doing it. So I could just glue this down, and then so for the armor I want blues. So these are the blues that I chose, and I would just do an arrow to the armor, and then I do the same thing for the gold pieces, which I picked the colors for that today actually, before I was setting up the stream. So I would have them down. So this is my blues, I'd have my golds, my cloth, all the colors would be down here, and then this would give me a visual idea in my head. Another good way to do this actually is if you get a picture like say this online, and if you print it in black and white, that also works really well, because printing it in black and white means you don't get distracted by the color, by the paint scheme already done. You're seeing a black and white image, so then you're able to transpose your ideas for colors off the picture. So that's a good way to do it as well. But I don't have a black and white printer, so I just write it down, cut out some pictures, and then I'll just make notes. But all I've done is dark blue armor, dark gold, maybe a bit of bronze in there, dark red cloak. The metallics are going to be dark as well, so that's any extra little metallics. Dark brown fur, and then dark bone colour for the horns. Because you'll see here they've done it like a black or whatever. I'm going to do mine like a sort of really kind of worn out bone type colour. So anyway, so that's just and then obviously this is going to get filled over the streams as well. I went and got this book for this, so any projects will go in here. So then we'll have almost like a diary of projects that we've done throughout the streams as well. So all this will be filled. So by the time we're done, we'll have all the models that were painted over the course of however many streams. This book will be filled, and then we'll fill another book. Look, that's how I want to go about doing it. So let me just grab the let me grab the board. I wonder if this would be okay, so there we go. I did have it this way round before, but I tend to, this is a bit too, because it's a like factory finished or whatever MDF, it's still quite glossy, so I just turned it over, and this is the side that I normally use to spray my models, so hopefully this should help sort of take away some of that reflection. So I just need to try and make sure that's in line. So hopefully that works a lot better. That works much better. Okay, so as you can see, I've already put down, this is just the test I did for the blue armor. Okay, very simple, nice and easy. And the thing is, I said last stream that what I've done here is all the components for this model I've stuck onto separate. I've kept them separate, so it allows me to get into the areas that you wouldn't normally be able to get into. But the thing is, of course, I brought this up last time. So when I glue this cloak, there we go. When I glue this cloak on, okay, I'm going to have to make sure I use some super glue and just squeeze it, and it'll just fill in those gaps a little bit, and I can just go over it again with some black paint. But okay, here we go. Here's my point. So that blue armor that I painted there, you can't even really see it. All you can see is that little bit there. But can you imagine if I was to try and paint that armor with this cloak in the way? Just wouldn't happen. So I can paint all this in as much detail or as little detail, as much detail as I want, and then just glue. And then obviously I'm going to be painting the inside of this as well. He's got a weapon here and a hand and part of his arm. But again, when this is glued together, you don't really see all that detail. It's kind of, but I just like it. Just in my own head, I like to know that I've just that it's painted. Yeah, I mean, most people tend to. I mean, I think a lot of people just would want to get this painted up and on the table, ready for battle. To be fair, I'd say the majority of, I think some I've seen different ones. So some painters like to do sub-assemblies. Some will do the models fully painted, fully assembled, and then paint them or whatever. And I've seen people do mix and match. So they'll they'll probably fully assemble, the head. They'll glue the shield on, but they'll leave this arm maybe to paint the sword or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I do it quite a bit with my models. I tend to my rule of thumb tends to be, if there's something that's in the way of an area on the model, I tend to leave that off, and then I'll glue it on after I've painted it. So for instance, this is a Cathayan ogre, okay, and he's part of a artillery crew. He's fully assembled except for his backpack. He has a backpack that goes over obviously over here, over the shoulders, and out here. So I want to be able to paint all this. I want to paint all the fabric, all the straps, everything, have all that painted. I want to paint the backpack on its own separately, and then I can just put a little dab of super glue on wherever it goes to and put the backpack on, and that way you'll get all this fully painted and you'll get the backpack painted, and it'll just be so much easier. If I was to fully assemble the whole thing with the backpack, it would just be a nightmare to paint. So just for me, in my head, it's just easier. So yeah, so that's basically it. So yeah, I reckon most people, I mean, I've got, what have I broke it down into? So I've basically, I have the main body, I have the sword and the hand on attached. Oh, there we go. Okay. And then I've got the head. And this is on a flying stand. And it's just the tiniest bit of super glue there. And when it's fully painted, I can just take the knife and just cut it off, and it'll just break off. It's because super glue is basically like a it just bonds. It doesn't like completely, so it just breaks off. And then the shield. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the main one is 5. So with all that jibber jabbering out the way, let's grab the palette. Okay, I've got all my, and I'm just gonna go. I'll just go through a few. This is my kind of my thought process. I'm not going to use all these colours, but I just kind of, what I do is I go, I want to paint blue armour. I want to paint dark blue armour, but I still need, if you look here, I still need those accentuating accents on the edges and on the extremities of it, where it kind of like, so I have that contrast, because a good painted model is always contrast. So we'll go from a dark blue to a medium blue, and then on the very edges, this very light blue with little dots of white in the corner. That just gives us our, like it's reflecting light. And then in the recesses, I used a very, very dark blue with a little bit of black, and then either side of that, like, of that damaged armor, I just put a little dab of the light color as well. Well, we'll go through all that anyway. So I just grabbed some blues. I go into my box of paints and I grab blues, and I grab dark blues, I grab light blues. Don't worry about the names of colors either, because every paint range has their own names for colors anyway. So for instance, like with Games Workshop, they'll have all their paint colors are named after, you know, things to do with either Warhammer or Warhammer 40k and so on and so forth. So it'd be either places on the maps, places, you know, characters, whatever. So they're not actually colors that are, you know, the artists would reckon, you know, they wouldn't know the names of them because they're not actual. So all I do is I grab so with this I'll have to so when I come to glue this bit on again, sorry, not on again, but when I come to glue this bit on, what I'll do is I'll scrape away the paint on the contact point. So I'll take my knife and I'll scrape the paint there. I can show you now because it's not really an issue because it needs to be done anyway. So if I take my knife, just extend it a little bit, I'll just turn it round so that way I'm scraping down away from the rest of the model so I don't ruin it. This is where it's going to attach with some glue. So all I'm going to do is remove the paint that's already there. And then what that means is that the glue will actually bond to the, so the two halves will actually bond to the model. They'll bond to each other because paint is also a layer. So if I glue over the paint, all it's going to do is glue paint to paint, and it won't be a strong bond. So all I'm going to do is just take my knife, just scrape away that paint. And then, to be fair, I could. So where I think it's gonna just to here. So this is very fine. And don't worry, we can go over this with. We can go over this with a brush on primer anyway, to fill in those gaps and just blend it all in. And that's why black is a really good color to use, because obviously it's flat. It's it's flat black, so it's just so easy to mask. Blend in with another black, and then when you paint over it entirely, it won't be noticeable anyway. Okay, so there we go. So that's the paint removed. And then on this one, I do the same thing. So just like this. Very, very careful. But you can't hurt yourself doing this. You just scrape. All you do is scraping away the existing paint. And then we're going to go down that. I'm just going to scrape away that inside line, just there. So in theory, those bits now that will join up. There you go. So now those bits that you can see some of that grey plastic show through there. That doesn't matter. Once we hey Solo, how's it going, mate? So once we glue that on, we'll go over that with some brush on black primer anyway, just blend it all in, and then when that's dry, then we'll paint over all the cape anyway, so it'll look like it's one piece. No worries, broski, no worries at all. So yes, as I was saying, I just go into my box of paints and I just grab out oh, no worries, Solo. I hope you have a good shift, mate. So I just grab paints, blues. I want dark blues. I want a medium blue, and then I want a light blue for the edges. Yeah. So I just grabbed some nice section of blues. So there's some Vallejo here. There's some P3. I think these are Vallejo and P3. But some of these are see the Vallejo game color. This is a game color as well, I think. Game color, model color. Hey, Susie! Yeah, not too bad, thank you. I hope you're okay. Yeah. Just really just started about half an hour ago or so for this one. The beginning of it was just a preamble. I hope you're okay. Yeah, so just you see, I've just got different. So game color, model color. If anyone's wondering about the difference between them both, game color, they tend to be, well, originally the old recipes of these and that, and the old colors. I think I have some of them somewhere. Okay, here we go. So this is the older style. These are the older style ones. These are the ones that were around for ages. These were basically the Games Work. These were Vallejo's answer basically to Games Workshop's paints at the time. But these are like the older Games Workshop paints. So the older names, Chaos Black, Skull White, that kind of thing, Blood Red. You know, Goblin Green, all those kind of names, as opposed to the names that Games Workshop use now, obviously fully changed. But yeah, and what these paints, so they tended to have brighter colours. The hues the hues of the colours tend to be much brighter, and also some of these paints, they tended to have more of a satin finish. To the paints, which wasn't really an issue because you gave everything a matte varnish anyway afterwards, so it matted down eventually, or you could add some matte medium. So yeah, so basically the main difference really between these two, between the game colours and the model colours, is just the finish, and the model colours tend to be a bit more natural colours. Slightly more natural. They were used much more for military painting, historical painting, that kind of thing. So the colours weren't as exaggerated or as vibrant. So and actually, Wolf Grey actually is a pretty good highlight, finishing highlight colour for blue. So I might actually leave this out. Actually, to be fair, I could use that as my little dot of colour on the edges. And then these are just a couple of P3 ones. So this is Privateer Press. This is the round pots. I've got quite a few of these left. I've got some of the newer ones they've done. So this is Signal Blue Highlight, a very, very nice blue colour. This is Exile Blue. This is my own label because at one point I was experimenting with. What I did one time is I had a load of these paints, these Privateer Press ones, and I removed the labels. And I removed the labels off these and a few Vallejo ones, and it was basically like a training exercise. So I didn't. Again, it was to get me away from using the names of like this is called Exile Blue. You know, this is because that's to do with one of the army factions in the War Machine game that these paints were made, you know, based around. Like they say, Signar Blue Highlight. Well, there's a faction in War Machine called Signar. So it's not even, you know, it's not a named color. It's just their name for the color, if that makes sense. So I was just trying to get away from that and get used to using colors for what their colors were, what the hues were, what the shades were, what the tones were. So that was a good little exercise. But yeah, I think some kind of actual identification is useful. Don't get me wrong. It was an interesting experiment, but after a while, even I was kind of getting a bit. So I made my own labels again, just so but it was a bit of fun. Okay, so while let's get on the subject. I think what I'm going to do now. Hopefully, this isn't. Wrong one. Hopefully. Oh, I was not going to do it, so I was trying to help something from the. Yeah, pretty good stuff, you mate. I've only just started half an hour ago, and a lot of that was just preamble, just talking about my thoughts and feelings from the takeaway from the test stream I did, and just my hopes for improvements and stuff going forward. So unfortunately, this camera is on auto focus, unfortunately. So normally I have it set up so it's focused in one spot, but if I don't move my arm too much, I think it should be okay. So I'll make sure next stream that it's on manual zoom and I can just keep it locked in. Right, so we're going to paint. So my plan is to paint this leg here. So blue there, gold, and then on these, and then blue on the boots. It's great to see everyone in chat. I love seeing all you guys in chat. This is great. Okay, so let me just grab my palette and we can just put some colours on the. So this is a wet, as I said before, this is a wet palette. This is actually a Red Grass Games wet palette. The actual, the housing unit is official. But after I've had this for so long, the hydration pads and the hydration, the papers, I use them all, and so all I do now is I use these cheap sponge cloths from like a discount store or whatever, and the parchment I'm using is just greaseproof. It's a sheet of greaseproof paper. A wet palette. So what a wet palette allows you to do is it just basically keeps your paints hydrated. So especially if you live, say, in areas that's slightly warmer, the paints won't dry out. I used to use something like this. I've got it here. Bless me. Sorry, I used to use stuff like this. Is Plasticard. I used to buy sheets of this. It's very cheap, and I just have this on the table, and I would just literally have my paint pots, and I just mix the colours on here, and then paint my model. But what I was finding is, also what you can do is it kind of saves your paints. So any mixing you've done on here, so you've got, say, a range of colours from dark to light, and I'm painting this guy, so I'm going to be doing the bulk of the armour on here in the blue, but also, something on, another part of the model. So say, for instance, this shield might need to be painted the same blue eventually. well, instead of having to mix all the colours back up again, if I can just put the lid on, and then I can put this. You can actually put this in the fridge. Literally leave it in the fridge, and then it'll be fine for another day or so. Take your lid off, and because you've got all the moisture in there, the paint stays wet, and so you can still work with it and add more paint to it, add more water. So this is fantastic. So let's just get some colours on the. I was playing around with some colours. So the main. I quite like this colour. This is dark. This is called dark blue, but it's a really nice colour. So this is going to be essentially our mid-tone. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically shade that back. So I'm going to use some dark Prussian blue. This is dark. And then I'm going to put a little bit of black. Not much, you don't need a lot. This is going to be basically for the really deep shadows and recesses. But we're hardly going to use that. And then we need to move forward with just a little brighter blue. And then an ice blue. And then for the very, very tippy tips, any really raised areas, while I got it out, I'll use this wolf grey. If it works. Oh no! Doesn't matter if it doesn't. But the nozzle's a bit gunked up. But there we go, there's the wolf grey. Which is like a very, 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 very pale, pale blue, light blue, grey blue. So let's just rinse the cup out and we'll get to it. And the areas I'm going to be painting, I showed earlier on that these areas that I'm painting now are going to get, I'll just leave the palette there so you can sort of see how I mix. All this area here anyway is going to be obscured by the cloak that comes over here. So let's just mix. Okay, I want this in here to be a lot darker. Okay, how's that? So this leg here is going to be a much darker blue because it's not going to be. This piece of armor here is in front of this, is in front of that, so I'm probably not going to go to these colours here. But on, like, say, the boots, I will. On the chest plate, I will. So all we're going to do for just get this base coat down. I'm just having to tip the model upside down there, but you have to just, you know, move the model around. And don't worry if you get any paint anywhere else on the model that you haven't already painted yet, because the reason why I primed this model in black, you have several options when you prime models. You could prime them in black, grey, white primer, which was a very big thing back in the olden days. White primer was a very, very popular primer to use, but that was purely because it made the colours brighter when you painted over a white primer, and a lot of that was also due to like the pigments as well. In a lot of the older paints, the pigmentation wasn't as good or as strong. Like these days now, with the paints you can buy now, you can paint really, really bright looking miniatures over black, no problem. The coverages are so much better. So also I'm going to do different areas of the model at the same time. So while the inside of that leg bit there is drying, I'm going to do this foot here. I want this foot to be the same blue, or the boot rather. So just turn the model around. This is why I love putting these models on these the spray caps from the spray cans. Any old spray cans that I've used that are empty, throw the can away, keep the lids. Very, very useful. So that's going to give that boot time to dry. It's all about, when you paint stuff, it's all about time management as well. So, is it going to zoom? Right, the palette of the way. So all this armor is going to be this really lovely blue. And I was actually inspired to paint the Chaos. The majority of my Chaos are going to be painted in this kind of like dark blue armor. And I'm not making these guys Zeech, because Zeech is pretty much is blue and yellow, blue and gold. I just liked this color scheme that I saw in a old pamphlet for Games Workshop from years ago. I'm talking late 80s, maybe early 90s. Had a really nice Chaos model painted this way. So I'm just taking inspiration from that, really. I think heroes and lords and things like that I'll paint in this cool, like blue looking armor, dark gold, and then maybe some of my normal unit troops will be in the black armor with little accents here and there. So I do want to kind of hearken to the 4K, obviously, for a little bit of background on Chaos, especially when I used to play back in the day, or paint back in the day. You had Chaos Undivided, which were the sort of that standard black armor with the silver edge highlights that you normally see in all the artwork and stuff. So we got Undefined now. There are ways to help with that, like there's breathing techniques, and there's ways to actually sort of, you can it's hard to show because you can rest. Let me move this out of the way. You can, when you paint a model, if you have you can rest one hand against the other, and then you kind of use that as like as that, because so the way, if you do, you tend to, if you hold it still, if you shake, your hand will sort of, you'll move in the same direction as the model, so you don't, you can't. But I understand that some people just don't have. I'm pretty lucky, I suppose, that I kind of have. I don't shake when I do stuff like steady hands and stuff. But give it a go. If you're interested in doing it, give it a go. I know people. I have a friend who, he enjoys the hobby and stuff, and he has, shaky hands, but he does some good stuff. He turns out it's good. He just, after a while, just practice, and he got used to it and was able to like compensate himself with it, and it's great. Art Attack, oh yeah, I love that program, Broski. Art Attack is brilliant. I mean, who did, if you were, X amount years old in the UK, who didn't watch Art Attack? soldering. See, that's the thing. I was such a when I did like technology and stuff at school. I was always weird in school. I just don't think I paid attention to stuff as much as I probably should have done. Because I like doing stuff like that as well. I like doing like fiddly things, you know. I like sort of, and I think it was just school. I think school in general just I wasn't interested. I just wasn't interested, and you know, so all the things I could have done in school, because ironically enough now is like stuff that I do, you know, for fun or whatever. Yeah. Oh, same, broski. Yeah, I just it was school was just like something I had to do, like before, so I could get home again and like do the stuff I wanted to do. It was just so. It's like, I suppose looking back on it, you know, I wish I'd learned a trade, or I mean, obviously I've learned a trade, but a trade that, you know, is, I don't know, or had more trades under my belt, should I say. I wish I'd learnt more trades. Oh, let's bring those two together again. A bit too much water on my brush there. Oh, I'll have to mix it up here, I think. Okay, there we go. See there, I had a bit too much water on my brush there, and as I went to mix it, it made it into more like a wash. But that's okay, because we'll use that later on. So I just basically pulled my colours and used the colours up here. So as you can see now, oh, if I put it, you can see how that paint has now dried, but you can still see the black through it. So now we're going to have another second coat, but I'm going to favour it more towards the darker spectrum of the blue, just because again it's in an area where it's going to be a bit more shaded. And this is the great thing about painting, is that it's in flux. Nothing you do is permanent until you, like, you know, make it permanent, so you call it a day basically. You can change back and forth as much as you want, you know. I'll put these colours down, and then I'll be like, right, well, I need this to be a bit more dark, or maybe this could be a bit more lighter. And just like here, this is a little bit of the armour showing through, but no, you're not going to see any of that. When the rest of that cloak gets glued on here, you ain't going to see any of this that I'm painting now. But I'm painting this purely for the stream, for the demonstration, and just because for my own peace of mind that I know it's painted. But anything that does get anything that does show through when I've glued it together, at least I know it's painted then. Steffi, I sold a lot in work and my hands are a bit shaky. Food is key. Yeah, food is key. And I don't like, you know, if you've got shaky hands and stuff, I wouldn't recommend consuming a lot of like caffeine and energy drinks and crap like that as well. But honestly, breathing techniques do work as well. Breathing does work, you know, without sounding too you know, bloody thingy about it, but you know, in through the nose, out through the mouth. You know, a couple of deep breaths, like deep breaths, nice and slow, like thingy, and then go to do what you're gonna do. But again, you can, you know, you can rest your hand against something, rest your hands against each other. You know, whether, you know, well, I'm just talking purely from a painting point of view. We're going to make sure that So the great thing about the head not being in the way here is I can get to all this stuff here. We're going to essentially wash this down with a very dark blue, and then in the bigger recess areas we're going to add some black. Just to deepen the shadows. Okay. So it's just once more with that leg. We're gonna grab some of that dark blue. Sorry, not the dark Prussian blue, and I'm bringing it up here. And this is all the blending I'm doing here on the palette. So I've got the very, very dark into medium into lighter. When I start doing a few highlights, that's where the light colours will start to blend in. On an area like this that isn't going to be seen very well anyway, we don't have to worry too much about having really smooth blends, really smooth transitions. The base coat inside of things can be, usually the most tedious, but also usually painters don't usually, especially ones who paint on videos or live streams, they tend not to show the base coating process too much, just because it is a bit monotonous. But it is useful to know how to properly apply a base coat, because the base coat is your foundation that everything else is going to work off of. So that includes your shading, your highlighting, any extra tones you're going to put in there. Let me just finish painting this chest piece, and then we will check back in. Just make sure I grab some of that dark Prussian blue, add it to that. I just want a bit more of that darker blue on that side of the armor, because that's more in shade. Okay. Oh, okay, Broski, thank you very much for being here for the first hour or so. I do appreciate it. Get your rest, and I'll see you in the morning anyway before you head off to work. Thanks very much, Broski. Bosh! My broski. Well, there's no point shouting out your Twitch anyway, because all the people in here from yours anyway. But just in case anyone is watching that isn't on it is Mr. BitDart over on Twitch. Okay, so I'm going to start. So we're going to add in. So let's start doing. Undefined now. Who's Twitch? I don't know. Okay, so let's just start putting down some of these. If I should have probably put maybe a lighter base coat for the chest plate than the legs. Doesn't matter too much though. We're just going to go over that and just build up the build up the layers. You can't really go wrong. All I'm doing here though is, so this circle, this piece here is a like an attachment for the cloak, and that's going to be metallic. So the blue armor around that edge there, I'm going to, I wish I could zoom in a bit better, but I'm going to leave, oh there we go, you can see probably a bit better there. I'm going to leave that in the darker blue, just so it gives it a little bit of shade. But what we'll do anyway is we'll go in there with some blue and some black on the and the actual recesses. Now remember, the idea of this armor is it's we're gonna just essentially, I don't want this to be, you know, overly bright. The brightness is going to be on the edges here, and that's just basically going to be a mid-tone. I didn't really do much on this piece of armor here. I started off with some dark blue, worked up to a light blue going down, and then just in these little like kinks and yeah, these little cuts in this armor, the gashes in the armor or whatever, I went in there with a darker color just to accentuate them. So should be fairly straightforward. Okay, so I'm just gonna, this mid-tone blue that I made, I'm going to paint just there. Okay, so that gives us some indication. There's a little bit, can you see that little transition there where the dark is and that brighter blue armor there. This is going to be a dark gold. We're going to be using essentially this is a very, very dark gold. It's basically a gold with a lot of green in it. So it's going to be quite dark. So when we put on these areas here, it will show up quite nicely. The bright blue armor will show up quite nicely against, or should I say the brighter blue highlights will show up much better against there. I'm just going to do the edge just here as well. Okay, so there's that one. This is that same mid-tone I made where I've just mixed in a bit more of the dark blue with the Prussian blue. We're not at pure. Did you paint in between the did I paint between the lines? No, so that's the thing, you see, like, if you're on about when I was at school or whatever, then I'm not really, that's the thing, I'm not really an artist. I'm not like a talented artist or anything really. It's kind of weird. I like to draw and I like stuff like that, but I mean, the way I sort of approach these and the way I sort of took to it is almost like you're doing I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like it's just once you know the basic principles and use of color and application, you know, each model is, you can paint these models quite straightforwardly. Like in my head, it's kind of like there's a logical progression from one step to the next, if that makes sense. And so as long as I plan my colors out ahead of time and, you know, I can come up with something quite nice. I mean, again, like just helps, I suppose, that I've got again, just I don't know really. But I'm quite a methodical person. I'm sorry if I'm trying to get my words out and not making much sense, but I'm quite methodical. I don't mind the slow process behind it. I suppose it's the same with like video games and things like that. I'm someone who I don't mind. I don't play like I used to play like World of Warcraft like years and years and years and years and years ago. It was BitDot brought up some time ago on his stream. I sort of got into WoW during the hype around the build up to the Lich King. So that's when I just use, and for me, what I found enjoyable was the solo stuff like grinding and leveling up. Same as when I what do you call it? When I play video games, so like a game that requires you to grind. So for instance, like a lot of the old JRPGs and stuff on like say Super Nintendo or some of the ones on Mega Drive, things like that. I could just sort of sit myself down and just do that all day. For the most part, has to be a game I like though. It has to like interest me to begin with. But I think it's because it's just it's very like it's very methodical for me. It's just very zen, for lack of a better word. It's just nice. I don't get bored of doing that. Whereas there's other stuff that bores the hell out of me, but that doesn't. So I remember. See, for me, my childhood was Super Nintendo, Mega Drive, going into N64 and PlayStation. So that was kind of like where I kind of, and then I've got then into my like late teens. Really late teens into the things was obviously like PS2 and so on and so forth. So, but Assassin's Creed, because I had a free Xbox 360 back in the day. I was actually had an Xbox 360. I didn't have a PS3. I had a 360, but I didn't have a Xbox original. I had PlayStation 2, but yeah, I was. So I remember getting I remember playing Assassin's Creed. That first one. Never did play. Never completed it. I never played the rest either. It's like I remember getting. Obviously, I had my Nintendo 64. I remember getting, Ocarina of Time. But the first game I ever got from a 64 was Mario 64. So I got Mario 64 and I got the Nintendo, the N64, and I was hooked on that, man. Absolutely hooked. Like, see, I'm an old man. I'm an old fella. I'm older than BitDot. But yeah, oh man, I remember getting that and taking it home. Because I was to get my Nintendo 64, I was paying installments. Leading up to the release. It was a game shop in town, and they took, they set you up a thingy. You paid installments, whenever you paid installments, basically every week or every month, whatever it was. And I remember getting the Oh, I remember getting that and taking it home, and I was able to get Mouses 4 as well. Took them both home. That was it. I was away. But then I remember getting. I didn't have many games. But you didn't need. I don't think you need many games. You know. I think for the N64, for the first while there, I had Mario Kart. I got eventually. Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, GoldenEye. Well, yeah, because that's the thing. Because obviously before, yeah, I think that period of time. So I'm just putting down some blue highlights there. I think the period of time between the Nintendo 64, I mean the PlayStation 1, like they lasted, obviously that lasted a long time. Because when did that come out over here in the UK? I'm pretty sure it was what 95, 96. I think Japan got the PlayStation. I'm pretty sure in 95. I don't think we got it over here till 96. So I may be a bit wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that was the timeline. But I remember like people with the PlayStation, it just took the world by storm. Absolutely took the world by storm. Just changed. I think the N64 changed gaming. I think they both changed gaming in a different way. I think there was, but it was just it was so interesting, like just how different. That was the thing as well. It was interesting how different the consoles were to each other back then as well, because you couldn't get the same games on N64 as you could on PlayStation. So when it came to PlayStation, I think near enough everybody and their mother had a PlayStation. Do you know what I mean? It was that kind of weird thing. I think the only thing that came close to it in recent years was the Wii, Nintendo Wii, where people were buying. You had families and everyone was having. I mean, I think it was sort of the same but different, because I remember people obviously were buying PlayStations because, and obviously this is a long time ago now, so it can be said, but obviously there was a lot of games were getting. You could mod the PlayStation. It was a very simple thing that could be done. Everyone was basically going out, buying a PlayStation, having an acquaintance they knew or knew of someone who could then mod the PlayStation for them, and then of course they would go purchase a load of black market games, so to speak. I had uncles and cousins and stuff that had PlayStations that were yeah. And I think that's. But here's the thing: you look at how much the PlayStation has sold and stuff. It didn't. It sounds like a weird thing to say, but it didn't hurt it because people were going out and buying PlayStations. People were buying units like PlayStations, like they were buying consoles at however much they were, full price, to then have them thingy. So obviously, the games were, but the games still sold, in large numbers. So it's one of those weird things where I know probably like some people may. Well, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it was. Do you know what I mean? But it was a weird thing where I think it helped. So one of those weird things where I just, in that case, it did. I just knew that pretty much everyone had a PlayStation. Like, everyone had a PlayStation, and more often than not, like, they wouldn't always. They would, if it was a game they really liked, they would probably, you know, go and buy the actual version, you know, the actual real version of the game. Like, I mean, I know I did. Like, I had real versions of the games and stuff. You know, I didn't just have, you know, I had games that I was given, you know, eventually by you know, a family member who. That was how I obtained my PlayStation in the end, was through a family member didn't want theirs anymore. Because I had a Nintendo 64, so I had to basically pick and choose one. Basically, I had to like pick, and that was it. So, and I went with the N64 because I liked, you know, coming off of Super Nintendo and stuff like that. You know, I'm a big Mario guy, big Zelda guy. You know, I just well, it's like these days now, it's like, you know, with emulation and stuff. You know, I have no problem with emulation of, you know, games that came out in like late 80s, 90s, you know, years old, that sold X amount of units, you know, X amount of copies, already made their money like several times over, you know. Same with arcade games. I love arcade games. But a lot of the ones I really like, the ones I really enjoyed, the ones I remember the most, you know, they don't have ports. There are no ports of them. There are no ports. So it's like, you know, what you're supposed to do. So obviously I've got you know, the arcade emulation, you know. And then people, you know, it's like, oh, yeah, well, you can't, you know, figure this unless you own the actual board or whatever. You know, the thingy board. Who the hell's gonna? It's just such a weird. And of course, a lot of the doodads now, the companies now that are re-releasing these things. No, look what Nintendo do. All Nintendo are doing is basically just just on their thing. It's just the ROM. It's just ROMs. So it's just ROMs of the games, you know. I mean, granted, it's oh, 100%. No, I agree. Like, no, like people deserve to get paid. Yeah, they deserve to get paid. People deserve to get paid for what they're thinking. It's just weird stuff, like say, like some of this, like sort of now. So what? 2025. So 20 years ago would be 2000. Another 20 years ago would be 80s, wouldn't it? So yeah, over like 30 odd years old or whatever. You know, it's just like, especially some games that you just can't get hold of. There we get hold of it. Anyway, I see like emulation. I also see that as like preservation as well. You know, I remember. Do you know what I mean? If there was some like, if say for instance like they announced like on PS5 or some crap like Arcade Doodah Hits Volume 1 or whatever, it actually had stuff on there that I actually wanted to play and stuff I remembered, as opposed to, it's always like I remember they brought out like Midway Arcade Midway Arcade Treasures, like Volume 1 and 2, and there were some good games on some on some of those, but the rest of the games were just like games I had no thingy for, but I think there was so many random games, because you had the companies like Data East, you had is it Taito or whatever, all these random companies that made stuff for arcades that you can't get hold of. It's like Sega, what's the Golden Axe? Obviously, Golden Axe 1, Golden Axe 2, Golden Axe 3, they was all on Mega Drive. the first Golden Axe was obviously an arcade game, but then you had which is what me and my brother remember playing the most at the arcade, as in a Golden Axe game, and that was Revenge of Death Adder or whatever the thing was. And there's no things of that whatsoever. There's no ports of that. There's no ports. There's no things of that. You can't download it. So it's like, that's a really good game as well. Like, really, really good game. So the only way I can play that is emulation. So don't get me wrong, it's just one of those weird things. Just going over the blue here, guys. So I haven't really talked much about the painting process. There's a lot of this repetition. This is why I was a bit sort of hesitant about doing these painting streams, because I feel that a lot of it is repetition. A lot of it is, it's all layers. It's all building layers, and hoping you can see. I don't worry about that if I know. It's actually nice to have something to actually talk and discuss. Talk about. Oh, absolutely! I think hobbies are worth. Worth sharing, 100%. But it's just whether or not I had something I could bring to the table, something new. Maybe just a different approach to stuff, or maybe a bit more what you call it. I think sometimes I see people, they can be a bit uptight. I mean, I've seen. So I was doing obviously my research and stuff, watching. I would go on YouTube and type in, Warhammer, and then click on the live stream tab, and to see what was going on. There'd be streams. Loads of streams going on. Not just painting ones, but I've added a bit of this magic blue now to the mix. Just I want the main armor of the blue, the main blue of the armor to be this dark blue. So now I'm just going on the edges with the lighter blue. Yes, it's like there's a whole host of stuff on there. This is just YouTube, of course, and but you see them, and it's like, I'm not. But you see them, and they're like, they are. It's coming on quite nicely, the blue. Thanks, Defo. The what you call it? So there'd be you'd have a live stream, and it'd be a guy painting or whatever. And the problem is, you click on the stream. Look, this is for my research purposes. You click on the stream, and it's the camera's really zoomed out, so you can't really see the model that they're painting. It's a bit more of a wider shot, so you can see more of the bench and stuff, and you can see all the models on the table, but you can't see what they're actually painting. And then the worst thing about it is they're not saying a word. They're not saying a single word, and so it's not really engaged. And that's the thing. You kind of need to engage. I think some people had put in the chat there, with the guy. I think they had put what do you call it? I think they had put someone put some, what are you painting, or what is it, or blah blah blah, whatever. They hadn't replied. They weren't in that guy wasn't in the chat anymore, so it was kind of like, okay. I do try to what do you call it? Look up at the chat every now and again. But I saw some very strange things. Tell you what, there's some probably people in there really, like really talented painters, you know, like really talented painters. But again, it's just they're not. Just like, I mean, so with a live stream, you have to obviously engage. It's different. I mean, to be fair, this was pointed out to me last time by someone who, just a friend of mine who, just wanted to watch the stream just to see what I was doing, and they watched the last, obviously the first stream, the last stream, obviously, and I basically said, look, it's gonna be scuffed, like the stream's gonna be scuffed as hell, like I'm gonna make mistakes, I'm gonna say my talking and stuff isn't gonna be very good. This is gonna take me several streams to get used to talking and having like, like what should I say, like to pronounce, enunciate and pronounce my words and stuff properly, because I'm doing this and talking at the same time, which use two different sides of the brain and all that kind of stuff. And but they said to me, they went, throughout that stream, you never even like introduced yourself, and I didn't introduce myself. But my brother and Sleepy Joe were already in the chat, so I just immediately started like just talking to Sleepy Joe and my brother. So I didn't even go like I didn't even do it this time. Didn't do it this time. Well, I kind of did, but not properly. Because obviously I didn't even like what do you call it? I didn't specify or kind of like what is the point? What are the points of my streams? What are the streams for? What are they to do? What are they actually to? What am I trying to achieve? That kind of thing. What am I? And I mean, the end game, the main thing for these is I'm hoping I can. I need to like sort out OBS for it. I think there's a plugin I think that allows you to do it, and that is so I can record a secondary scene in OBS, which is just purely the model being painted. There's no overlay or anything like that. And the idea would be to, on my YouTube channel, upload actual content, actual videos, like instructional videos. So I would use the painting that I've done in the stream, plus obviously some painting that I've done, off stream as well, and then just obviously edit that together, and then that would be for actual videos, and then I would do a commentary over the top. Yeah, so it's essentially, basically a time lapse with commentary type thing. So I'd have like, there would be, but the thing is, I still need to figure out, camera angles properly, that kind of thing. At the minute, this camera's, I did set it up last time so it didn't zoom in and out. It wouldn't do this all the time. But it's obviously because I restarted OBS, I think it's gone back on itself. So I'd be doing this, talking to you guys, talking to chat, but none of this would be obviously wouldn't be on in the videos. It'd be on a separate scene in OBS and wouldn't have the audio. Or I just remove the audio anyway and then just put in new audio over the top. So that's starting to come along. It's starting to come along. So what we do here. So what I would do is, I want this armor to basically be the same brightness as here, which it basically is now. But I just need to do these little edge highlights here, these little specks of white. But that's using this basically, it's basically an ice blue, and then this is obviously the wolf grey, which will be on the very, very. and add a bit of that to that, and that'd be on the very tips of the armor there. But the only place that would be really is on the edge of sorry, on the edge of this bit here. I need to get this. So on the edge of that bit there, and down this middle piece, little dots here around there, and then we'll do a darker colour to go in those cuts in the armour. So actually what I might do is I might grab my smaller brush. I might just do that now while I've got the chance. So all I'm going to do is take the dark Prussian blue and a bit of the black and mix that together. Okay, that's good. That's good. Good shade there. A little bit of water. Come and push to a nice thin point. Steady hand. What I'll do is just take that colour. So it's just a bit of the darkest blue I've got, plus a bit of black. We're just going to go into those little slits in the armour there. Beautiful. And then there's this section here, of course, as well. Well, actually, that I was about to paint that. I was thinking that was a bump in the armour there, like it's been hit with like like a morning star or a hammer or a mallet or some. It's no. I should use my brain really. That is the recess to accept this section here. To accept this piece here. So when this is glued on here. Sorry guys. So when this is glued on here, that fits into that bit there. So that highlight there is worked out quite nice. So that's perfect. So I won't mess around anymore with the armor just now, because as you can see guys, that leg, you know I took all that time to paint that leg. You can't see any of it behind here, but turn it around, you can see some of the foot there. You turn it around, you can see the foot there. Okay, so that's why I like to do these sub-assemblies. So take them off. But also, what this allows me to do as well is these areas here that I've this area here that I'm painting that you're not really going to see. It just allows me just to refine the choice of colours, because here I can mess around if I wanted to, and it wouldn't matter too much, because I could add in like a really where is it? This is a good colour. This is a secret weapon colour, and I was going to play around with using this for the deep shades for the blue. This is called Hull Red. Okay. But as you can see, it's very, it's very, very dark. It's but it has some brown. It has brown, but it has some blue in there as well. It does have blue. So in fact, I would say it probably contains blue, which is what makes it in the brown. Yeah. So it has that kind of red and blue, which as yet undefined. No, as you say, yeah, purple. So it basically has a purpley hue. So this works really well. This is a really good color. This Vallejo watercolor Hull Red. I might do a stream that will be a video as well. I'll use the footage for it, which will be kind of like my kind of say top 5 or so secret weapons in terms of colours to use for things, because this has a lot of uses. This is a great colour for like rust and stuff like that. So you can I'll show you on the palette actually. Let's have a bit of fun now. I'll show you on the palette. So just grab it. I'm going to give it a quick shake. Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea, Steph. I think it'd be a good little one just to sort of show you some of my. So there you go. So there's that. So it's very, 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 but it's very, very good. Let's get a junk brush, but I don't mind. There we go. So we'll just get some water on there. We're going to thin this down, and that's a really good way as well to show you to see what the composition is of a colour. Is to actually bring it and thin it out. So this is, I mean, if I was, I don't really have anything I can use, unfortunately, to. Oh, actually, I can show you something. I can show you something. 1 second. I'm not going too far. Oh, it should be. Oh, okay. Maybe not then. I did have a goblin that was somewhere that I painted up, but he's disappeared. This is in the. No. Okay, fair enough then. That's a shame. I was going to show you on like on some metal, on some on like a weapon or something. It's a very, very good colour. For metals, for like for rust on metals, for weapons. It just really good. It's good colour to use on say like on blues. In fact, I can show you on here. Look, because obviously this bit's going to get figured anyway. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to. I was hoping I could just grab a. That's one thing I definitely didn't want to. I don't want dead air. That was another thing as well. My friend pointed out saying don't like disappear off. I was doing a I was doing a bloody what do you call it? I don't want to do a bit dot. You know what I mean? But just because it's like what do you call it? Spur of the moment. Like my brain just kicks in. I'm like, oh, I can show you this. I can show you that. But yeah, let me just I'll show you on this because this is going to get covered over anyway. This little recess here. So if I just use some of this, I'm just going to thin it out. So you can see it's quite strong there. All I do then is I just take my brush and I thin it out. I just blend it out, blend it in, blend it out. There's little gaps, little recesses. Make sure you bring it down. You can just pull. I did say before in my previous stream, my preferred method to actually paint is actually what's called two brush blending. It's where you have a secondary brush close by. Usually, so I normally stick it in between my gob. I stick it in my pie, in between my pie hole. And so what I would do is I'd have a brush in my mouth like this. I will put. Say for here, I'll show you quickly. So say on here, right, I'll put a little bit of the, so I'll put a bit of colour on there and I'll push it in the spot that I want. My second brush comes in and I use that to basically feather. And the way I wet it is literally I use my mouth just to wet it. And all you're doing then is you're basically bringing the brush up and pulling it back. You're pulling the colour back over. You get that nice little transition of colour. So what you get the strongest, you're putting basically a pure colour down. And then, it's, to be fair, it's only acrylic paint, so I ain't going to get much of a high. But yeah, so that, I mean, that's irrelevant because that's going to be covered over by the. But it's a really, really, really nice colour to use. In fact, no, I got anywhere that we can. But as you can see, he's fingered on, so that's going to be, there we go. Okay, perfect. So when this is on anyway, we're only going to see that much of the armor. So what I'll do is I'll get my fine brush and I'll do the highlights and that afterwards. I can do all that. I can do all the highlighting on the main areas after it's all assembled, because the model, it needs to look harmonious. So everything needs to look like it's all of the same model, if that makes sense. I know it kind of, because I've done it in pieces. Okay, so obviously I'm going to glue this, and when I do glue this, there's going to be a seam down here. So even though I've primed these two pieces already with black primer, I have a brush on primer, black primer, brush on. I'm going to need to use the super glue, press it together, and just let it seep through a little bit, and that will help fill in the gaps. It will. I'm going to use I've got two different types of super glue. I've got a runny super glue, and I have a slightly more thick super glue. And what I do is I just use a paper clip and I dab it. So I'll get the thick super glue, but I'll dab it ever so gently on the areas that it's going to go. And then I press it together. I'll press it together, and it'll push. There we go. And it'll push the excess super glue out, but only ever so slightly. And I can just use a junky brush or something I'm not worried about ruining, and I just pull the super glue down, and that will just fill the gap in. And then when I paint over that, when it's dry, I can paint over that with the black brush on primer, and it will just fill the gap in, and it will blend it all in together. So then when I come to paint this cape, you won't have this like really unsightly seam down there. It'll actually look more it'll actually look like it's one piece. So here, so in the same respects, when everything is all together, so everything will be painted, but it will need just a few little finishing touches here and there just to bring it all together. Because I'll use one thing that you can, there's a technique I'll go into more depth about it, as, when it comes to that time, and that is you've got something that's called accessorizing. So that basically means using the same colors that you have on the model, the main area of the model, on other little areas, so that way you tie it all in together. Even if it's usually what that would mean is maybe say using a shade color, which you can then use on all areas of the model, and it will tie it in. So for instance, that's a good example actually. So this chainmail here, okay, this chainmail here is going to be a very dark like a iron, like a gunmetal, silver, but very, very dark, and it'll be washed with blacks and browns and stuff, just to give it that really dingy appearance. Now if I had used this whole red as, say, a shade color on the armor, or maybe on the cloak, okay, So say this is going to be painted. This is going to be painted red. I would use the whole red. I'd thin it down, and I would go in. Sorry, I'm not sure. I would go into the really deep folds, okay, with the whole red. Even here, in these areas here, these little tears in the fabric, I would use the whole red on those little tears, yeah, and on the maybe on the edges of the cape or something. And then I would also use it on the metal here. I could use it on the belt buckle here, maybe on the emblem here as a wash, just to. What that would do then is that would tie in the metal there, the metal here, and also the cape, because it will have the same brown in that use of colour. I'm going to be using, when I paint the gold, a really good colour to use to add shade and definition to gold is actually purple, and that's because I know in our case I'm using a gold that's more on the green side of the spectrum, but it does go into the yellow hues because it's still gold. Like gold is still like a yellow color, yeah. So the opposite on the color wheel to yellow is purple. Also, I have a deep purple here and a purple wash. I'll mix these two together, and that will. So when I come to do the dark gold, so this knee pad here, dark gold, and these, I can't remember the names of these things now. These will be dark gold as well. But you'll see, okay, you see here, there's a gap, like a little tiny little gap here. So I'll show you that way. So yeah, like a shin guard. I think they've got they do have a name. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's like, is it the, one second, I can tell you actually. Let's just hope I'm not, let's hope I'm not showing my phone on screen. No, I'm not. Okay, that's fine then. Because I do have... Gaiters is what they're called. That's what the correct term is. Gaiters. It's a piece of armor that is thingied around the shin. So yeah, shin guards, but I think the actual technical term for this is called gaiters. But yeah, so all these are going to be the same gold color, but of course I'm going to blend. So you're going to, you're going to lighter here, darker down here. And then lighter here, darker down here, and then the edges will have that little accent of color. But in the in where the shade, the deep shade is here, and in this, if I can show you quickly, there is a little bit of a there you go, some kind of filigree, a little bit of ornamentation on the armor here. So in this recesses here, I would do a very thin wash of the purple and violet mixed together, really fine brush, and I'll just go in there with the tip, and that'll just help separate the gold colors and give it a lot of punch because it's a complementary color on the color wheel. But then I will also use that purple to say maybe this is going to be like a brown. The belt is going to be like a really dark brown. So I could use the purple in the brown as a shade color as well, because it would work quite well. I'll give it a quick wash or glaze, just something that just helps it tie it in. This here, I think, is going to be like because the majority of the model has like blue, gold, red, and then the shield, which is on a separate thing. Here we go. So the shield, this is going to be the same blue as the armor as well. But obviously it's got metallics, it's got golds. So this will be the dark gold armor. So the same color as the chainmail will be the chains on the shield. The same color of the knee pads and the gaiters or whatever will be, yeah. So what I'm basically doing is, so one, I'm using the same colors on multiple parts of the model. So basically, most of the colors that appear on this model, on this section of the model, will appear on this shield to tie it in, and then I find a common color, like a shade color or wash, that I could use on multiple areas of the model, and then on the different sections as well to help tie it all in. So all the metallics will get washed with this whole red. The golds will get washed with the purple, and I could then use the purple in other areas as well, or use the whole red in other areas as well. And it's just so you're not using like a million different colors, because that can be the death nail. The death nail for a model is if you use too many colors. So I'm using, basically, what am I using? I'm using blue, gold, silver, as in the basic hues. So gold, blue, silver, red, and then I've probably got I've got some neutral colors like browns and stuff. So I'm using like 5 colors, but 3 main colors. The 3 main colors are actually blue, red, and then gold, with the smaller areas being like silver, and then the belt being brown. Yeah, that's a bit. Yeah, but even if you're painting a model that, say, is a clown, I think what you tend to do is you tend to try and use. Excuse me. You tend to try and use the same. You still try to use the same colors in different areas. If that makes sense. But then you maybe just like, you darken the hue or lighten the hue or whatever, but it's still that same base color. So my same base color on these is going to be the the dark blue. So the shield will be dark blue, the armor's dark blue, shaded with Prussian blue, and then a bit of black for the shades, and then highlight colors are magic blue, ice blue, and then wolf grey, just as a little dot here and there. So that's pretty much. So there you can still see there's a little bit. So let's just bring that down a bit more. So there's that. I'm going to put a bit more black this time, a touch of the blue. Okay. I want those grooves in the armor. There we go. To really perfect. Now I can take that magic blue, maybe a bit of magic, but oh, watch out. Just be careful, because a little bit of, then you had an accident there. When I washed the brush out, some water was still in the ferrule there, and it'll drip down and actually run down the brush, and it'll just turn your perfect color mix, or your perfect consistency into into water. So be careful. What I tend to do is have paper towel, and I'll wash a brush, and I'll run the brush on the paper towel just to make sure I soak up. You add water, you've had to thin the paints. The paints are way too thick, way too thick. And the idea when you paint is you're building layers. I could probably show you. I've had an example, but it's just the paint's just way too thick. So what I'm going to do here, there we go. So I'm now going to, I put that dark colour in the cuts in the armour. Now we need to accentuate those cuts in the armour by using a light colour underneath. Oops. Made a little mishap there. Don't worry, we can fix that. There we go. So it's always in flux. So the line of light colour there underneath that cut in the armour, that gash in the armour, is basically, it simulates the light coming down and just touching the like that last, like the little, basically the rivet, not the rivet, the recess, like the line that just shows up after the recess, that little bit of metal that just sort of sticks out. Next time, I tell you, I'll make sure the autofocus is off, because it is actually doing my head in a little bit. I had it perfect last time, and I think because I was sorting OBS out for I had it set up really nice last time. You could actually see the doodah. See there, I've got a little bit of the light blue there. This is one of the great things about using black as a primer. So if I go over here, oh, Steffi, mate, I understand it. To be fair, I'm probably gonna at the top of the hour, I'm probably gonna say my goodbyes anyway, pal. I sort of plan to have like a 2-hour stream today, but on Thursday, I'm planning a longer stream, probably an earlier start than 8, and probably a slightly later finish, maybe. So I think we're going to leave it anyway. So Stefu, thank you, my friend. Thank you for showing support. It really does mean the world to me. And I hope you have, get yourself to bed, buddy. And I know what it's like. I had work this morning myself, so when I messaged you on Discord, I literally got to work and was having my first cup of tea of the morning. So yeah, I really do appreciate it, Steffi. Thank you. Undefined Gnome, thank you very much. You've been really, really kind and gracious to stick around. So this is what let's just see what we got to where we got to. Okay, so we started off with a black base coat, black primer, and I literally only had that bit of armor there done. So in that time, we've got a fair bulk of the main armor done there at the front. A little bit of highlighting. Here you see that I was going to say where I've gone over a little bit there with the light color. Doesn't matter. We're going to paint over that with black again, with black anyway. We're going to black all. In fact, actually, before I sign off, Right, just before we sign off, actually, because this is one useful thing I really like about using a black primer. I do use something called zenithal priming as well, and I will show you that on some of my other models because that's really good for speed painting groups of models. But I'm using normal, just a black primer, and the reason why I like doing this for is I've just gotten some normal black paint on my palette there. It's on my brush, and now what I can do is what we call the cleanup phase. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean up anywhere the paint has gone over that it shouldn't be. So on this knee pad here, where some of the blue is, just like this. Very nice and simple to do. So like here on the this emblem, this bit that holds the cloak to the armor. That bit there, look, you see? So I'm starting to basically, yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm just redefining my areas. I'll move this out of the way so you can see. So I'm redefining the areas of the model. So basically cleaner and sharper. So here, the belt, this is probably going to be, like I say, dark brown. There we go. Just going to paint that black. And also tilt the model because the model's a 3D object, yeah? So this also here should be black. And what I'll do, guys, is I'm not streaming tomorrow. I've got some free time in the morning tomorrow. I will finish off the majority of the base coating of the blue armor and the highlights, and I'll do it as far as I can, and then that will get us to the point where in the next stream I can start painting the gold and show you how to do the dark gold armor, and then we can get to the point where we can sort of start getting the majority of the model done, and then we can start looking at actually assembling some of the pieces together, maybe in the stream after, I would say. So the stream, like next week's stream or whatever, will be when we can start to assemble some of the pieces together and then start to blend them in. So there we go. I think that's the all the black done. Yep, so that's it. So that's all blacked in. So I still have this leg here to do. This armor plate, so this leg here, this armor plate, this boot, or the lower half of it, that arm there, and I think that's pretty much it for the blue. So I will do all that off stream tomorrow, and then that'll be all ready to rock for the gold on Thursday night. So that is going to be a stream. I am going to stop that video. I am then going to thanks for the find now. So if I now switch to this screen, you should still be able to hear me. Now I've sorted that out, and I just want to say thank you again to everyone who came to the stream. Not bad for the first official stream, and I'm very, very much looking forward to the next stream. I will see you all there. Look after yourselves.